How's it going, everybody? Welcome to General Hospital MV, my GH After show. Let's get into it. Now, I know that what I'm about to get into mostly took place on Friday's episode, but I honestly wouldn't feel right if I didn't start off the show with all things Sean Donnelly. At the beginning of the week, Anna tries to reach out to Tiffany to try and get some insight on the poison that's slowly killing Chase, and when Tiffany gets back to her, she learns that her dear friend, Sean Donnelly, had passed away. The news spread to Sean's loved ones in Port Charles, including Robert and Maxie. I kinda wish that the show had Maxie kind of acknowledge Sean over the last several years, because I honestly had no idea that Sean was even her godfather, although in hindsight, given Felicia and Sean's relationship, it does make sense, but it was just weird to see Maxie cry over someone that she's literally never mentioned once in all my time of viewing General Hospital. And I've watched a long time. Sean's memorial was being held in Ireland, so Anna had to leave Valentine in charge of getting the antidote from Peter, just in case Chase's condition gets worse. And so she, Robert, Mac, Felicia, Monica and Laura, and even Robin flew to Ireland to pay their respects to Sean. Naturally, the funeral itself happened off screen, but this was one of those times where I was kind of okay with it because I understood why they had to. It would have been really super weird if they had Sean's funeral without Tiffany being there. And if you guys didn't know, Sharon Wyatt, who plays Tiffany, has been dealing with physical health issues the last several years, so she's in no condition to be on screen. However, what was cool though is that we actually get to hear her voice in the memorial episode. Hearing Sharon's voice would have been super emotional for me. However, someone on Tumblr had the audacity to go under my post where I said that I did not want to be spoiled because I was at work and I couldn't watch the episode right away, and they posted that Sharon's voice was used under my comment or under my post. And I had said that I was going to close Tumblr, and I did. However, the notification popped up on my phone screen, so there it was, spoiled for me right off the bat. I was so freaking mad. Oh, I was so pressed and so bitter watching that whole episode because of that person. Like, who does that? Honestly, oh, I was so pissed. Anyway, the coolest part of the memorial episode was that they actually brought on John Reilly's real-life daughter, Caitlin, to play Annie Donnelly, Sean and Tiff's daughter. It's so funny, I think I've mentioned this before, but I have been watching Caitlin Reilly for like a whole year now. Her impressions on YouTube and TikTok are hilarious. I had no idea that that was his daughter. So ironically, even when I'm not watching GH, I'm somehow watching someone that has a connection to GH. I can never truly escape you, General Hospital. So near the beginning of the episode, we learn that Annie has been trying to follow in her dad's footsteps and become a WSB agent, but we learned that they also ghosted her, so she had accepted that she didn't make the cut. We also learned that Annie was going to receive Sean's classified case files, and Anna and Robert were trying to ask if they could have access to it. I presumed it was because they were trying to look into the comparison of Tiffany being poisoned into what's going on with Chase. Apparently, when you are a WSB agent in training, you take an oath that you will never show classified information to anybody. Not your friends, not your colleagues, no one. And even though she hadn't made the cut as a WSB agent, she took that oath very seriously and sees it as a lifelong commitment no matter what. Soon after, a mystery starts to unfold and Sean's loved ones start disappearing one by one off the property, seeming to have been kidnapped, and in their place there are clues left, and they all have to do with storylines that were connected to Sean Donnelly back in the day, such as the Mount Rushmore adventure and the Mexico adventure with the Aztec princess. Towards the end of it, Annie was hard accusing Robert and Anna of being responsible for the friend's disappearance, because on Robert's phone there was no call made out to the police, even though he said that he was going to call the police. And with Anna, there were magnets in her purse that could have messed with the computer when they were trying to look at security footage. Of course, Robert and Anna said that they were being framed for it, and I believe that too. To be honest, I actually thought that Annie was behind all of this. I was like, oh no, is Sean's daughter shady? It turns out Annie was right. Robert and Anna were behind this. Apparently, this was the final test for her to take in order to become a WSB agent. That was clever. I honestly didn't see that coming. Overall, I really enjoyed the episode. I mean, it was great to see Robin and Felicia again. Holy crap, it's literally been since before the pandemic hit that we've seen Felicia, even though she's technically been in town most of the time. Thankfully, within the memorial episode, we actually see Felicia confront Anna on what she had done to Maxie, the position that she put Maxie in. Felicia was angry and Christina brought her A game to those scenes. Of course, by the end of the episode, they had made up because they knew that Sean would want them to make up and just move on and move forward. I really hope that Christina sticks around so that she's there for the birth of Maxie's baby. Speaking of which, Maxie and Bobby were in this episode too. They were still in Port Charles and she was asking Bobby to deliver her baby, and of course Peter was in the episode too. I felt all those scenes were so unnecessary. They could have had the entire episode take place in Ireland. They should have, but it was like, I know that Maxie is related to Sean, but again, we barely seen her acknowledge the relationship at all, so it just felt a little bit jarring. But yeah, as for the rest, I enjoyed all the flashbacks that we got to see. I enjoyed the gang being back together again like old times. It was fun to watch. Godspeed, John Reilly. Now, let's talk about the rest of General Hospital, shall we? When we last saw Nina in Nixon Falls, yes, we do have to talk about it. Elijah walked in on Nina snooping around his office, but she tried to cover by saying that she had dropped her earring on the floor. She picks it up and she bolts, but Elijah didn't buy it for a second. He looked at his computer, he noticed that his printer was still warm, and put two and two together that she most likely printed documents off of his computer. Thankfully, thanks to those documents, Sonny and Nina decide to leave Nixon Falls and head to Corinth to see the damage that Elijah had done over there. Supposedly, Corinth was this nice, quaint little small town with a lot of charm that got taken over by Elijah and his corporate partners. They put a strip mall in there and it got rid of most of the town's character, but I feel like if you ask fans of the dead soap opera The Loving, they might have a different story as to what actually happened in the town of Corinth. I didn't watch Loving, but I hear that there was I guess a bunch of murders that took place in the town by the time that the show ended, and everyone left the town because of it, and then a spin-off show called The City came. For those of you that did watch Loving, please let me know in the comments below if I was accurate about that. Meanwhile, back in Port Charles, there is some baby drama happening, and I'm not just talking about Maxie and Brooklyn. As I mentioned last week, Sasha is pregnant with Brando's baby, and Gladys had overheard the news and jumped to the conclusion, thanks to Lucy, that Cyrus was the father, and she told his clueless ass about it. Sasha and Brando were going to have a conversation at the Metro Court, but when she notices that Cyrus is watching them, she kind of creates a scene and says that she wants Brando to stay away from her, and she storms out. Later, Carly runs into Sasha in the washroom at the Metro Court, and Sasha actually confesses to her that she's pregnant with Brando's child, and she asks Carly not to tell Michael about it. Girl, Michael don't care. He don't care. Carly doesn't tell Michael, but she does tell Diane because Carly believes that if she tells Gladys that Sasha is carrying Brando's baby, that could convince her to recant her story about Jason. The reason for that is because she thinks that Cyrus sees Sasha as a trophy, and if he learns that someone besides him had her in a way that he couldn't, then he would probably kill Brando for it. Elsewhere, Sasha actually does tell Brando that she is pregnant with his child, even though Carly had advised against it. Thankfully, Sasha has her own mind. Sasha did see the situation the same as Carly in the sense that she thinks that Cyrus sees her as a trophy, and that if word got out that Brando was the father of her child, that Cyrus would use that opportunity to kill Brando. So she takes Brando off the hook by saying it was someone else. She tells Cyrus that it was just a one-night stand with someone that she doesn't even know the name of, and that does get him off the trail for now, but as we know, this is a soap opera. It'll eventually come out somehow. Carly had invited Gladys to the house to break the news to her, and of course, Gladys didn't believe it, but then Brando shows up and confirms that it's true. Gladys eventually agrees to recant her story about Jason and to even implicate Cyrus by saying that he hired her to lie. She did agree to it, but it hasn't actually happened yet, so who knows if it actually will. Gladys is kind of a wild card, so you never know with her. I guess time will tell. Elsewhere in Port Charles, even more baby drama. Valentine is officially moved into the Quartermain mansion, but no one told Olivia about it, so shenanigans ensued. He walked into a room where Olivia was sleeping half naked in a towel, and she freaked out. It was pretty funny. There was a bit of flirtatious banter between Brooklyn and Valentine, saying that she would have liked to seen him half naked in a towel. But him being in the Quartermain mansion does make it much harder for Brooklyn to sneak around. And of course, she's trying to help out Maxie. Maxie was scrambling a lot this week because her OBGYN wanted to induce her labor. Maxie said flat out no, and Peter was like no as well, which scared Maxie a little bit, so she knew that she'd have to come up with some sort of plan to get herself out of Port Charles as soon as possible. When Maxie had learned about the news of Sean Donnelly, she uses that as an excuse to need a few days to get away from here, so she wants to book herself into a mother's spa, and Peter doesn't want her to go alone. He wants Chloe to go with her. Chloe is the nurse that Peter hired. Thankfully, Maxie is resourceful. She knows that she has to bring Chloe along to get Peter to not be suspicious about anything, but let's face it, he's totally suspicious. But yeah, she books Chloe into a 2-hour-long sort of massage where she would have ample time to get out of that spa herself, make her escape to Beatrice Corners and have the baby there. She even gets Bobby in on helping her deliver the baby. Hopefully the plan works, but I just feel like it's gonna end in disaster. We're rooting for you, Maxie. Really, we are. It's just, you know, Peter is a psycho and he's a stalker and he's gonna go after you. Like, I'm pretty sure that Peter can see the disdain on Maxie's face whenever he's suggesting things to her. He's gotta know that Maxie's trying to play him. Anyway, let's move on. Britt actually manages to check in on Maxie and apologizes for not being able to be there for her, and Maxie reassures her that she's got a plan in place. Britt is happy about that. Britt seems to really be enjoying herself in Canada with Jason. Neither of them seem to be really careful because Jason convinces Britt to go to a doctor to deal with the tremors in her hand. Boy, you are playing Russian roulette for this girl. Really, Jason and Britt should have just gone to Nixon Falls because no one even recognizes Sonny over there. They're not gonna recognize Jason. They're oblivious. We also got to see some hilarious banter between Dante and Sam this week. He shows up at her door with his slash tire. He just rolls it into the house. I just burst out laughing. He demands that Sam write him a paycheck to fix the tire. They kind of go back and forth with each other on like kind of being angry at each other and trying to be there as a supportive friend with each other. And in the end, Dante does rip up the check from Sam. I'm so back and forth with these two. Sometimes I like them and sometimes I don't. Honestly, as long as Jason is such a factor in her life, even though he's not really with her, it's hard to root for Dante and Sam. And of course, there's Lulu being somewhere in a facility. Eventually, Lulu is going to come back from that facility, whether Julie is playing her or Emmy is playing her or someone else. And that's going to put sort of any relationship that Dante has, you know, in second place. So it's a really tricky situation. It's hard to root for a couple that you know is doomed from the start, you know what I'm saying? Alright, the only other thing worth mentioning this week is that Laura and Cyrus had a conversation, and Cyrus now sees Laura as his enemy rather than his sister, and kind of makes a idle threat towards Nicholas because he is aware that Nicholas bought out Pentonville behind his back, and he is aware that that dinner was just a distraction to help Carly help Jason escape from the hospital. Laura does call Nicholas and Ava over to let them know that Cyrus is aware that he is trying to buy Pentonville. I'm pretty sure I know exactly how this is gonna go. Somehow, Cyrus is going to find out that Sean is in jail for a crime that Nicholas committed, and he's gonna blackmail Nicholas with that. If that doesn't happen, I don't know. If I am wrong, let me know what I should do as a punishment. This is a bet I am willing to take. Let me know what my punishment should be if I'm wrong. That's how confident I am. Anyway, that wraps up GHMV this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below your favorite moments from John Reilly's tribute episode, as well as your favorite moments from the rest of the show this week. And if you like this video, give it a big old thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, and I will catch you guys later this week for another GHMV Reacts to Quartermain Classics. Peace out.
Congratulations.